famous Austrian economist, historian, and sociologist Ludwig von Mises once said, "A higher standard of living also brings about a higher standard of culture and civilization." So let's understand the concept by taking a deep dive into this component that helps evaluate growth and development. Standard of living is a concept that helps people analyze their current living conditions. It is generally concerned with objective metrics outside an individual's control, such as economic, societal, political, and environmental matters. Such things that an individual might consider when evaluating where to live in the world or when assessing the success of certain economic policies. It is a topic of great interest in the present-day world as it is an extremely helpful tool to compare and contrast people's living conditions across nations and different communities, as well as set priorities for policymakers and understand the population's satisfaction levels and behavior. The existing definitions and indicators of living standards globally are, however, full of contrasts, conflicts, and even contradictions. Although factors like GDP and income per capita have been used as primary metrics for standard of living, it does not consider other important factors that contribute to a community's well-being in general. Let's first understand the existing metrics of standard of living. GDP, or gross domestic product, is composed of goods and services produced for sale in the market in a particular period of time and also includes some non-market production such as funds for education, defense, etc. provided by the government. The production of more goods adds to an economy's GDP irrespective of the environmental damage suffered because of it. GDP also fails to capture the distribution of income across society, something that is becoming more pertinent in today's world with the rising inequality levels in developed and developing countries alike. The EPI, or the Environmental Performance Index, evaluates countries based on their ability to achieve certain environmental objectives. The EPI mainly consists of two parts, namely environmental health and ecosystem vitality. United Nations Development Programme has devised a composite index called the HDI, Human Development Index, to measure the quality of life by using three major indicators, that is life expectancy, literacy, and income. And the Human Development Index does not exactly consider some of the important economic fundamentals, but it has strong relations with GDP. The gross national happiness measures the quality of a country more holistically and believes that beneficial development of human society takes place when material and spiritual development occurs side by side, which will complement and reinforce each other. At this rate, USA would be the most ideal location to live in if we only consider an economic view, since it has the largest GDP. But if we consider mental well-being and satisfaction as a prime criteria, then Bhutan stands at the top few countries with the highest standard of living, as it's one of the most peaceful and fulfilling environments to live in. Likewise, there will be similar nations' rankings at the top for different such indexes. So how exactly do we classify places on the basis of best standard of living then? I was taken aback by the fact that there was no single school of thought that covered all the pointers that were essential to find an accurate result of the question of standard of living. So I decided to collect data on how people classify these different standard of living indicators to help design a more nuanced and multifaceted approach. The survey was with the intent of judging how people prioritize the broad categories of standard of living, namely economic, social, and environmental, and further subcategories or sub-indicators under them. Firstly, economic indicators were given top priority out of the three main categories. Employment opportunities topped the subfactor under economic indicators with the 45 to 54-year-old age group, followed by the 35 to 44 years group, giving it top priority, reiterating the fact that the experienced employable age groups prioritizes career under economic factors. Moreover, a large number of females shows the sub-factor, which points to the lack of employment opportunities for women in the country and the quest to be financially independent. Inflation took the second place under the same economic category, with the same age group prioritizing this, but this time around, larger ratio of men prioritizing it compared to women. Let's take a few real-life examples of different states of India to understand the multitude of measuring standard of living. Inaya, a 13-year-old in Kashmir, may belong to a wealthy family there, but she may not be getting equal opportunities as her brother to complete her education or further career opportunities, and may not be living in the most safe and secure conditions in the country. So, economic well-being is clearly not a good enough factor when it comes to overall development of an individual, let alone the youth. Going forward, environmental factors were given second number in the survey with the 18 to 24-year age-old group, giving it the most votes in the list of defining factors for standard of living. It is actually quite refreshing and encouraging to see the youth taking this stand, as they can certainly take action against environmental issues and use their creative means to advocate for a safe, secure, and healthy environment to be every human's basic right. Availing drinking water followed by access to quality food were given utmost priority, followed by air quality, access to green spaces, and environmental burden of diseases. Food and water being basic needs of every individual has been given clear-cut priority. The worsening levels of pollution have also been taken into consideration by respondents as they chose air quality. Also, susceptibility to diseases were chosen by both the senior citizens who took the survey. Again, consider me as an example. I live in a metropolitan city and have a good enough lifestyle when it comes to my education, nutrition, and opportunity. But does that mean I have access to clean environment amidst one of the world's most toxic cities? Or am I content enough with myself and have the perfect picture of mental health? Hence, the question arises, is a superficial view enough to measure standard of living? Next, social factors stood as the third priority as per the survey results. These findings are an area of concern since social factors include a lot of important pointers like freedom to practice any religion, quality education, happiness, mental well-being, etc. The 55 to 64 years and the above 65-year age group were the ones giving social factors utmost priority. These factors actually allow people to peacefully coexist together and are essential for an individual's sustenance. Freedom to express one's thoughts with freedom of speech and quality education for all practices were ranked the top two priority indicators amongst the 12 social factors chosen. Gender equality, adequate housing, and mental wellness followed right after, while factors like right to contest an election, right to vote, availing justice, crime rate, and population density ranked lower by the majority. As expected, we found the senior citizen age group putting social factors on the highest priority. This showed the significance of social factors as one's age and gains experience in life as a whole. The youth and the active bread earner age bracket didn't consider it as important in this cohort's example at least, which is actually distressing and worrisome feature arising out of this study. To further explain, take the example of a newly passed out high school graduate from Kerala, although belonging to a state with the best literacy rate and the best male to female ratio, but there's a huge brain drain problem and chronic revenue deficit issue coming forward because a large part of its revenue receipts are overly spent in the social sector for expenses like pension, welfare schemes, education, etc. So, is being amongst the most educated community with the best welfare schemes enough to ensure the best quality of life? What a conflicting set of facts, right? This study also had some limitations on cohort biases. The first one being the sample size of the cohort was rather small, which was only 214. Also, there's an extremely large representation of respondents residing in metro cities as compared to non-metro cities. In addition, very less representation of the above 65-year age group because after all, it was an online survey. These results may actually provide working goals for better governance and achievable targets for improving the standard of living across varied geographies for Indian policymakers. The perspectives and priorities of the masses in developed economies are very varied from people's mindsets in developed countries. Also, in a vast and diverse country like India, people's perspectives and yardstick of policymakers are bound to be varied across different geographical and socio-economic groups of the population. Standard of living is, after all, a complex, multifaceted construct that requires multiple approaches from different theoretical angles. The UN SDG goals align with the standard of living indicators and provide a path to improve the living standard of different walks of people around the world. For example, Goal 2, Zero Hunger, and Goal 6, Clean Water and Sanitization would help in achieving access to quality food and availability of clean water. Goal number 1, no poverty, and goal number 10, reduce inequality, would in turn help creating an equitable distribution of opportunities and providing employment opportunities as well. The Better Life Index by OECD is a new metric that covers around 11 crucial factors from true health, education, civic engagement, environmental quality, personal security, social community, and life satisfaction. To consider a more multivariable approach of understanding a region's or by by far a country's standard of living. This research work is actually just a small attempt to gain insight into people's perspective on the standard of living factors in India, and there's a lot of ground that needs further extensive exploring by researchers. Instead of discussing over the best indicator, each discipline should actually borrow insights about quality of life from the other fields. Similarly, a complete knowledge of objective indicators and how to select them requires that we understand people's values and have knowledge about how objective indicators influence people's well-being overall. Despite all the new emerging alternative ways, there's still none that would satisfy the demands of professionals from various fields. Further groundwork and new knowledge will actually give an extra edge and credibility to deepen the scope of findings and work on this field of studies. Needless to say, we have much research ahead of us when it comes to understanding and devising metrics for evaluating such an important element to judge the nation's and by far the world's citizens' well-being.